January 15th, 1941. Paris, France. The muffled hum of the city, now under the iron fist of Nazi occupation, is almost suffocating. The streets, once vibrant and filled with the sounds of bustling Parisians, now echo only with the heavy steps of soldiers in uniform. The war outside is far from her mind, or at least she hopes it will be. Madeleine de Lacy, a quiet, unremarkable seamstress, works tirelessly in her small Parisian apartment, the rhythmic hum of her sewing machine filling the room like an ever-present companion. The flickering candlelight casts long shadows on the walls, but her hands remain steady, as they always have. But today, something is different. The air is thick with unease, and the unsettling stillness seems to seep into her bones. Madeleine pauses for a moment, the needle in her hand hovering over the fabric as she listens to the distant sounds of shuffling boots and harsh German commands. In the heart of the city, just beyond her door, the reality of occupation weighs heavily on her shoulders. As the world changes around her, so too does her understanding of what it means to simply survive. A soft knock at the door. The faintest sound, but to Madeleine, it's the warning of something inevitable. Her hand tenses on the fabric. Who could it be? Another neighbor seeking refuge, perhaps, or a resistance member disguised as an ordinary citizen. The knock comes again, louder this time, and a chill runs down her spine. She knows what it could mean: danger, a betrayal, or even worse, the Gestapo. Without thinking, she steps toward the door, opens it just a crack. A man's face, unfamiliar yet oddly calm, peers in. His eyes are sharp, and his posture, though quiet, speaks of someone who has learned to move swiftly through the shadows of war. He doesn't speak immediately, just looks at her, gauging her, and then with a subtle nod, he pushes something into her hand. Madeleine's eyes widen as she feels the cold metal against her skin. A small, handheld radio transmitter, wrapped in cloth. Her breath catches in her throat. The man's gaze lingers for a moment longer, his expression unreadable, before he turns and disappears into the night, leaving nothing but the faintest echo of his footsteps. She stands frozen, the object heavy in her palm, its significance unclear yet undeniable. A radio. But why give it to her? She doesn't move for a long moment. Her heart pounds in her chest, each beat resonating like the ticking of a bomb. The device is simple, almost rudimentary. It's used beyond her immediate understanding, but it seems to hum with an urgency she can't explain. Madeleine places it on the small wooden table in the corner of her room, her fingers lingering on its surface as though the very touch of it will change everything. For a while, she simply watches it, as if waiting for it to tell her its purpose. It's just a radio, nothing more than a simple machine, but in this time, a machine could mean life or death. The weight of her silence presses down on her, suffocating, as the reality of the situation begins to settle over her. She had heard rumors, whispers in the alleyways and in the cafes about a resistance movement. Small pockets of French civilians who refused to bow to the Nazi regime, groups of people working in the shadows to strike back at the invaders, to preserve what was left of their freedom. But Madeleine? A seamstress, a woman with no training in espionage or sabotage. She had always believed herself to be too ordinary to be a part of such a cause. And yet, the object on the table before her says otherwise. What does she do with it? The radio could send messages, sure, but to whom? And why her? It's hard to imagine that someone would trust her, of all people, with something so vital. Her mind races, torn between the fear of getting involved in something so dangerous and the nagging feeling that perhaps this is her moment to step out of the shadows. The radio sits in the quiet room, almost waiting for her to make a decision. The silence between them feels suffocating now, the weight of the choice too large to ignore. In a city where every movement is scrutinized and every decision could cost lives, the risk is staggering. But the radio doesn't care about fear. It is just a machine. And in this war, machines, small as they may seem, are often the tools of fate. She takes a deep breath and picks it up again, holding it carefully almost reverently. It feels heavy in her hands, but it is not the physical weight that burdens her. It's the responsibility that pulses beneath its surface, waiting for her to unlock its potential. She knows that taking this step will change her life forever. But what other choice does she have? To say no is to do nothing, to remain a passive bystander in a war that is not of her making, but one that is consuming everything she knows. Madeline sets the radio back down gently, the decision hanging in the air like a promise she's yet to make. She doesn't know what comes next. She doesn't know if anyone will even respond to the signals she might send. But what she does know in that moment is that the war has come to her doorstep in a way she cannot ignore. This machine, this radio, is a lifeline, and if she doesn't act, it will remain nothing more than a forgotten relic, collecting dust in the corner of her room. The faint sound of marching boots drifts in from the street, reminding her of the ever-present danger outside her door. The Nazis are here. They've taken control of the city. But for the first time in months, Madeline feels a spark of something she hasn't felt in ages: hope. The kind of hope that only comes from realizing that even in the darkest moments, a single action, a single decision, can shift the course of history. What will she do next? The world is waiting, and so is the radio. March 8th, 1942. A small flat in occupied Paris. The city, though under the weight of Nazi boots, still pulses with life in the hidden corners. Streets that were once vibrant now speak only in whispers, a delicate language of secret meetings and veiled glances. Madeline stands by the small window of her flat, the cold glass pressed against her palm, eyes scanning the street below. The wind whips through the alleys, sending pieces of paper tumbling through the gutters. Her apartment, with its peeling walls and sparse furnishings, is both a refuge and a prison, a place where survival means blending in, staying unnoticed, and yet, now, it is a place of unimaginable responsibility. The radio on her table no longer seems like an anomaly. It has become her burden, her silent companion in a world that has gone quiet with fear. She has learned its secrets. It is an older model, worn but functional, capable of sending brief coded messages, a small lifeline in a sea of chaos. But the learning curve has been steep. She had no prior knowledge of radio transmission, no background in encryption or resistance work. She is a seamstress, a woman whose world had once been the soft rhythm of thread and fabric, not the sharp, urgent pulse of clandestine messages. Yet here she is, standing on the edge of something far greater than she ever imagined. She doesn't know who the radio broadcasts to, nor whether anyone on the other side will respond. But she has been told, over and over again, that this is her chance, her moment to make a difference. Each day the decision grows heavier. Should she continue, or should she let it all go, fade back into the oblivion of a life untouched by the war's fury? Madeline places her fingers lightly on the cold metal of the transmitter. It's been days since she first received it. The sense of fear that gripped her then has not diminished. If anything, it has only grown. The consequences of failure, of being caught, loom like a shadow over every moment. Still, something compels her to push forward. In the silence of the room, her breath catches, and she begins to speak into the small microphone. I am here. I am ready. Her voice feels like a whisper against the oppressive weight of the world outside. But as the words leave her lips, she realizes that this is the first step in something irreversible. This is no longer a passive decision. It is an active choice to defy the enemy. Each night, after her work is done, she sneaks the radio out of its hiding place beneath the floorboards. She sits alone in the dim light of the candle. The only sounds in the room, the soft hum of the device and the occasional scratching of her pen on paper. The messages she sends are brief, coded, numbers and letters that could mean nothing to an outsider, but carry the weight of everything to those who know the code. What she doesn't know is who is on the other end of those messages. For days, she hears nothing, and doubt begins to creep into her mind. She questions the purpose of her actions, wondering whether the radio is truly a lifeline or merely a piece of forgotten history, destined to fade into the silence. She feels the weight of loneliness pressing in on her. It's not just the radio that's silent, but the world itself. Even in the heart of a city teeming with life, there is no one to share this burden with her. But then, one night, the radio crackles to life. The static is deafening at first. The crackle's like an unpredictable storm, but then a voice breaks through. Faint, so faint, it could be mistaken for a ghost, a whisper from another time. "Madeline, we hear you. Your messages have reached us." She freezes, the room spinning as the reality of what she's hearing sinks in. It's not a dream. It's not a mistake. She has made contact with the resistance. Someone out there is listening, and what's more, they are responding. Her actions have meaning. She isn't alone. The voice continues, filled with quiet authority. "You are now a part of something greater. There is no turning back. Do not hesitate. You are the link." Madeline's heart pounds in her chest, the weight of their words settling over her like a heavy cloak. A part of something greater. It sounds like a dream, but it's not. It's real. And with that realization comes a sharp, terrifying clarity. This is not a game. This is not some abstract idea of resistance. This is war. As the voice fades into the static, Madeline feels a shift within her. The quiet, humble life she had known is now gone, replaced by a new, far more dangerous reality. She has crossed a threshold. She has taken her first steps into the world of the resistance, and there is no going back. The days grow heavier as the danger mounts. The radio becomes her constant companion, but so too does the fear of discovery. The Gestapo is everywhere, their presence looming like a dark cloud over the city. It isn't just the radio that is risky now, it's everything. Every moment spent walking the streets could be her last. Each visit to the butcher or the baker could be her last. Madeline's life has become a tightrope walk, each step fragile, each day filled with the haunting question of whether she will make it to the next. The resistance is not the glamorous, heroic force the stories often paint. It is a patchwork of people, ordinary men and women, untrained and often outmatched, relying on their wits, their courage, and their fearlessness to survive. And Madeline is no different. She is not a soldier. She is not a trained fighter. She is a woman with a needle and thread, now forced to be something far more than that. The weight of her new role presses down on her like a vice. But as the days stretch into weeks, Madeline finds herself growing stronger. The fear that once crippled her begins to give way to something else, a fire. She finds herself taking greater risks, slipping messages into the hands of resistance fighters in the dead of night, her hands trembling but determined. She no longer feels the fear of being caught, not as acutely as before. Now, she feels the responsibility. The city, despite the grip of occupation, begins to change for her. It is no longer just a place of fear and uncertainty. It is a battleground, a place where she can make a difference. But that difference comes with a price. The knowledge that every move she makes could lead to her death is never far from her mind. And yet, it is that very risk that begins to shape her, to transform her from the timid seamstress into something far more formidable. The radio crackles again, this time more frequently. Each time it comes alive, Madeline's heart skips a beat, her pulse racing. And each time, she becomes more certain of one thing. The war is hers now, as much as it belongs to anyone else. August 10th, 1944. Paris, France. The streets of the city, once so familiar, have transformed. Where they were once filled with the cries of vendors and the rhythm of everyday life, now they are alive with tension. The echo of distant artillery fire, the low rumble of tanks moving through the suburbs, and the shouts of soldiers all add to a growing sense of something imminent, something inevitable. The German soldiers are on edge. There's a palpable shift in the air, a sense that the end is near, though no one can yet know how or when it will come. Madeline moves quietly through the streets, her eyes scanning the area as she walks. There's a certain urgency to her pace, a quickened step that betrays the fear simmering just below the surface. The city, now on the cusp of liberation, has taken on a strange, fragile beauty. Paris is caught between two worlds, one still under the suffocating control of the Nazis, the other a faint but growing whisper of freedom. The moment of reckoning is coming, but no one knows who will be left standing when it arrives. For Madeline, every step feels like a delicate gamble. The role she has played, so quiet, so hidden, now feels as though it is finally leading to something. She can hear the faint hum of the radio in the back of her mind, the soft murmur of messages passed back and forth between her and the other members of the resistance. They had been waiting for this moment. The Allied forces were close, too close, and soon Paris would be free. But at what cost? Her mind flashes back to the days when it all began. A simple radio, a whispered message, a decision that seemed so small at the time. But it had led her here, to this moment, when every action she takes carries the weight of an entire movement. She is no longer just a seamstress hiding in the shadows. She has become an unwilling architect of the revolution. She has seen faces come and go, heard stories of heroic acts that may never be told, and carried messages that may never be acknowledged. And yet, now, the tide of war is turning, and the recognition she so desperately longed for seems more elusive than ever. The streets are quieter now, as if the city is holding its breath. She walks past familiar buildings, shops she once visited, cafes where she had shared coffee with friends. But today, they feel foreign, as if they no longer belong to her. A sudden noise jolts her from her thoughts, the distant sound of a door slamming shut. Her heart skips a beat. The Gestapo patrols have grown more aggressive in the last few days, and Madeline knows she is a target. They don't know her face, not exactly, but they know she is someone. She can feel it. Every whisper in the crowd, every glance exchanged, seems to carry a message she isn't meant to hear. She slows her pace, taking a deep breath, trying to steady herself. The tension is suffocating. A wave of guilt washes over her. She has done so much to help. But when the war is over, will anyone remember? Will anyone ever know what she sacrificed? She has given everything, her safety, her privacy, her sense of normalcy. But will history ever truly recognize the small, quiet acts that led to the liberation of a city? Or will the credit go to the generals, the ones whose names are already etched in stone? Her thoughts are interrupted by the sound of footsteps behind her, quick and deliberate. She turns slightly, catching a glimpse of a figure, a man, his features obscured by the shadows. He moves too quickly, too fluidly, to be just another civilian. Her pulse races. Is this it? Has she been discovered? She feels a sickening wave of panic rise in her chest, her throat tightening. But as the man draws closer, she sees the glint of a familiar insignia on his uniform, the resistance. Relief floods through her, but it is short-lived. She doesn't know his name, doesn't need to. The message is the same. It's time. The Allies are near, and the battle for Paris is about to reach its climax. The man passes a small envelope to her, his fingers brushing hers for only a moment, but the message is clear. It's the final push, the moment that could change everything. Madeline takes the envelope, her hands trembling slightly. Her heart is in her throat. She doesn't know exactly what's inside, but she knows it is important. It's one last message, one final push for the resistance before the city is engulfed in the chaos of liberation. She slips the envelope in her bag and continues walking, each step feeling heavier than the last.